Welcome back. In this slide, we'll get talk about data binding. Now, data binding is important because it facilitates two-way data flow when a user fills out a form, which updates the state and the UI when the input value is utilized. This is useful when you as a developer are trying to keep track of what the user is entering into the form input fields. In our app.js component, we'll get to learn how to use data binding. The usual importing of the blog from the component.blog. We are going to also use the use state React hook. Now here we're also declaring the blog's data where we have two elements as we've had it before. The is expand and set is expand, which we are going to be using to toggle off and on the text. And the new thing we are adding here is the text and also set text, which is what you're going to use to learn how to do two-way data binding. Now, scrolling down to where we have the input field here. Okay, so we have an input field with a type of text and a value of text, which is going to match the same data we are declaring here in our use state. And this, by the way, has a value of string by default. Now, on change, that is tapping into the on change event handler, event handler in HTML. We are passing e, which is going to be the event. Now, with the arrow function, we are calling the set text, which is what we have here. Now we are passing e.target.value. The e.target.value specifically is going to refer to this particular input field. Then we target this particular input field and get the value, which is this. So whichever value the user provides is what we are going to return. With this required attribute means the user has to provide something before it works, though there is no serious strict checker for that. Now, we are going to have to render this on our web page by simply using the curly braces and passing the text data here. So whatever thing the user gets to type, we are doing a two-way data binding to also reveal it on our web browser. So here, we have the input text that says enter text. And when the user starts typing hello world gets displayed automatically. So with this, the onChange function is being run because the value or something is being changed inside of this input field, and that is the event listener, the onChange event listener. And once that happens, we get the target.value and render and immediately add it into our set state function. Now we are going to learn how to use the data binding to create new blog posts in our blog website. The new thing we are adding here is the title, and also we are providing the function that allows us to update it, which is set title. We are also providing content and also set content. Two of them are strings, and we are going to use this to set the title and also update the title, set the content and also update the content. Now, for the sake of this, I'm actually getting rid of, but it's still functional, the delete and also the expand code here, so we can have more room to write the function for the add block, but the previous code still works. Now, in this add block function, I'm putting out a little checker here to confirm that the user doesn't get to submit an empty input fields. Okay, so I'm using the title, which is what the user gets to put, .trim, thereby removing extra spaces. So if the user gets to include or just hit spacebar multiple times, which is also a value, but it's not a useful value, right? So I would have to strip it off by using the trim. Now I'm checking the length. So after trimming the values and the user actually provided something, assuming the user has like 5 space characters and a text, I would have to trim those 5 space characters to just have the text. And running the length, I have access to identifying if the user provided a character or not. This is an OR statement which checks for this. If this gets to be true or this gets to be true, then the code would run. And the code that is going to run is the return here. But mind you, there's a little trick here that I'm using the not gate, which is this exclamation mark. So if I get to trim the input fields and it returns 0, like the user did not include any text in it, it's going to return 0, and 0 means false. So I get to change the false to true. So meaning that if any of these returns false, I change it to true. And using OR gate means if any of the checker is true, then the code gets to run because of OR gate and how OR gate works. To get started with logic gates, check out our course on JavaScript, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. We got to talk about how to use that there. Now, once this checker is completed, and assuming the user provided data piece of data in the input fields, then we don't get to have this return. We continue with the code base. Now I'm creating a blog object. Instead of the blog object, I'm having an ID. And which other way to provide a unique ID than using the new date class constructor? Then I'm getting the time, so that at every interval the user gets to add a new blog, at least there's going to be a change in time. Also, I'm having the name, which I'm providing the title with. So the key is name and the value is the title, which is in our state. The content also, that has a value of content, which is also in our state. Now after that, I'm going to create a new blog. I'm going to create a new blog, which is where I'm passing in these blogs, which is the initial blog from we created earlier on, right? For currently it's an empty array. So I'm going to pass it here, and I'm going to say new blog.push blog object, since it's an element inside of the blog, new blog array rather. So I'm going to push the blog object into our array. First of all, clear the text, the title rather, clear the title, clear the content, so that each time we get to write a new blog, we clear the input field, so we'll be able to write another blog. When I'm done with that, I'll now set blog, calling this function set blogs to update the blogs array with the new blog array. Now this is our HTML section where we get to see the blog list that is going to be looped through, assuming we are done updating or creating a new blog post. We still have our usual delete blog, which I told you I had stripped up earlier, which is still this. You still have to leave this in your code base. All right, so we still have the expand box, the is expand boolean value, and the input fields where we provide the value to be title, which is going to be the title of our blog post, the onChange event handler that handles the change in the input values and calls the necessary set title or set content to update our values for us. We also have our little data binding to showcase the title we are working on. So in our browser here, if we get to start typing, we'll see so far that the new blog gets updated, or because of the two-way data binding, we are getting the data printed out. And once we hit the add blog button here, we get to add the new blog inside of our blog array, and automatically it's being rendered. This is the last slide where we're talking about data binding and how to use two-way data binding. Thank you so much for joining in this React course. And yeah, so go have fun.